get right to the breaking news out of Russia, where 41 people lost their lives after this passenger jet burst into flames, forcing an emergency landing in Moscow. A passenger on board took video as the flames spread. And I have to warn you, these pictures are difficult to watch. 78 passengers and crew were on this plane. 37 people survived. At least 2 children are among the dead. Russia is now launching a criminal investigation. CNN senior international correspondent Fred Pleitgen is following developments for us. Fred, what's the latest?
Some horrifying images coming out of Moscow as video seems to show that plane, the Sukhoi Superjet from Aeroflot Airlines, as it's screeching down the runway after making an extremely hard emergency landing in the afternoon hours of Sunday. It then seems to come to a stop and actually seems to go off the runway at the end as it's further engulfed by those flames. Now, there is also video from inside the plane that just shows those horrible moments as the plane seems to be screeching down that runway with flames outside the window, very much there, seeming to engulf that plane from those shots as well. The people there obviously very much in horror as the pilot tries to keep control of the aircraft. Now, the information that we're getting from Russian authorities is that this plane, the Sukhoi Superjet 100, took off from Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport in the afternoon hours of Sunday, and shortly after takeoff declared an emergency. The pilots then decided to return back to that airport, and upon trying to land at the airport, apparently made a very hard landing, the plane bouncing into the air and then coming down extremely hard. The investigators so far saying that they believe that the plane caught on fire after hitting the ground, and then obviously you see that billowing smoke and the flames coming from that aircraft as it's screeching down the runway. Now, with a number of fatalities already confirmed in this incident, the Russian authorities have launched a criminal investigation into what exactly happened there with this plane. Vladimir Putin has been informed about the incident. He's offered his condolences, and he also said that the investigation will be as thorough as is possible. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Rovaniemi, Finland.
Thanks, Fred. Now I want to bring in CNN's Richard Quest, who covers aviation issues for us extensively. And Richard, I know you've been looking very closely at all the different videos coming in, and we have some new video just in.
Watch. There. Now, if we go to the beginning of that and we take it a bit slow, the plane is not on fire when it comes to land. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, take the pen. Your pointer.
Let's start again. The plane is not on fire when it lands. Very hard lands, bounces back into the air, and this is the moment. When the plane hits the ground, the landing gear collapses, the fuel in the tank erupts, and that's what causes the fire.
Amazing. That changed the story completely.
Completely. This plane was not on fire when it landed. So now we need to look at what was happening that caused this landing in this way. Well, we know the plane takes off from Moscow. It goes up, round. It says it's been hit by lightning. It requests immediately to return to Moscow, comes round, does one loop, then comes into land, and does that. And that's what you're seeing there. It lands, bounces up again, crashes down.
That is so chilling when you think 41 people have died.
Absolutely. The issue now becomes what happened when it was hit by lightning. How much control did the pilots have? I was just texting with Les Arbent, who, of course, is one of our experts that we speak to often, and he was saying, look, I've been hit by lightning before when I was on the plane. It's a loud bang and nothing happens. But here, apparently, if what we're hearing out of Moscow, and it's not, this is not confirmed, but the rumor is that they were hit by lightning and they lost all automation and they lost control of the aircraft. But they still managed to fly it for a further 20-odd minutes to get back into a holding pattern, which then begs the question, how difficult was that plane to land that there was such a bounce? I mean, you don't see planes bounce like that. And that was an out of control. That he hits the ground, or the plane hits the ground, bounces up again, and comes straight back in. And it is that. So we could be could be heading to a situation where the question becomes, was this completely survivable? If the plane was on fire when it lands, that's more dodgy. But if this plane was landing without fire, like you see here, if that'd be, then we need to know what happened there. That's going to be the key moment.
I mean, I imagine, though, it would be difficult for people to evacuate through all the doors because now you can't, get close to the back door, so you got to go out the front.
Yes, that fire now becomes very explainable. I mean, it's still horrific, but it is explainable into what happened. If you take this video and add it to the next one of the plane going down the runway, you get the full story. What we don't know is what caused the pilot to want to return to the airport. We're told it was because there was the plane had been hit by lightning. But as any pilot will tell you, planes get hit by lightning every day. Lightning hits are not supposed to cause... They have special lightning detectors, lightning rods, lightning diffusers.
But when you look at that video, clearly the plane did not land. It was not a normal landing. It hit hard, it came back up, it bounced, and then hit down again.
But why?
So that obviously would be a clue too, right?
I mean, it looks like it looks like it just lands in front. This is going to be a really serious issue. You see, it's landing on its nose almost, but it just does that bounce, goes back up again.
And that's when it burst into flames.
For example, was it coming in too fast because he'd lost control? Because he didn't have as much control over his things like the flaps?
Right.
Was he able to deploy the flaps? I can't see from these pictures until we look closer. So that he was able to slow the pilot was the pilot able to slow the aircraft down? This
was an Aeroflot airplane. What is the safety record of Aeroflot? Good.
I mean, it didn't used to be. You know, if you go back to the old Soviet Union days, it had a terrible safety record. But if you look back over the last 20 years, it's flying a predominantly Western fleet. This particular aircraft, I was just looking it up, 1.9, 2 years old, modern avionics. It may not be the nicest aircraft in the world, but it's certainly not, there's no safety issues with it.
You've talked about how fire on board an aircraft is among the most serious incidents in aviation. Yeah. I mean, how unusual, how uncommonly and extremely rare is this kind of a fire?
Oh, well, it's a very good question. A plane crash landing will be expected to go on fire. And what I think we will be looking at in the days ahead. Let's go back to that last piece of video of the plane on fire on the ground. This one, there we go. Now look at that. So this is obviously from somebody who's nearby, a passenger maybe even. The plane has stopped. The fire is underway, the slides are out, and there's no fire brigade nearby. Now, there are very fixed rules for how long the fire brigade and the fire department is allowed from its station to the runway. And they practice it. Here, you're only seeing the first one. You're still not even seeing any there.
Still no. So and people are already getting off on this.
Well, the slide. So there are going to be some very deep questions asked about this one. Particularly, the fire brigade should be there by now. This plane was known to be coming in an emergency. So why wasn't the fire brigade closer? How long did it take to get to the burning aircraft? What happened to cause this thing in the first place? These are the big issues. There'll be a major investigation.
Absolutely. I have another question for you on some other breaking news back here in the U.S. involving Boeing.
Yes.
We're now learning that the company is admitting it knew about problems with the 737 MAX a whole year before the Lion Air crash.
Right. It knew about an issue concerning the angle of attack sensors and a disagree. If the two angle of attack sensors disagreed, then it didn't work properly. But what Boeing says is that it had no safety implications. And the reason I point that out is, even after Lion Air, they went back and looked at this issue. Do we need to change it, or can we wait for a regular update to the software? And they decided again that this angle of attack disagree issue was not pertinent, was not a critical safety issue. The judge and jury will be out on that. So far, I think it speaks to Boeing's activities, state of mind, the way the company may have been behaving.
Do you think they were too confident, overly confident?
No, but because after Lion Air, the safety committee actually looked at this issue again. I think it's a red herring, this one.
Right.
I think it's a red herring about whether or not it would have changed anything, but I think it shows perhaps people will say it shows that Boeing were being slapdash on safety on this issue. I'm not sure they're right.
Richard Quest, always good to have you with us. Thank you so much.